Good morning. Well, what say we? Shall we start? Nice to be back again. I was going to start out today by talking to you about a few different topics and teachings from A Course in Miracles, as it has such a robust backdrop of knowledge. But as I was gathering what I wanted to tell you, I realized that I was focused in on one topic, forgiveness, because there's such an abundance of information and so much to tell you about this one subject. So the lesson for today is relatively short compared to my other sessions. So let's just, with that, dive right in. Forgiveness opens up the mind that the ego has closed. I'll say that again. Forgiveness opens up the mind that the ego has closed. The ego tells us that happiness can be found in this world by meeting our body's needs. Spirit, on the other hand, teaches that happiness, real happiness, comes back when we unlock the presence of love that has been buried deep in our minds. It's been buried deep because we, the decision maker part of us, chose wrongly and continue to choose wrongly much of the time. We chose the ego rather than spirit as our teacher. Of course, most of us think we have chosen spirit and that we are on the right path, and those who listen in on this call regularly have done just that. So an easy way of determining which teacher we have chosen to follow is to observe whether or not we can forgive, and forgive easily. Every single time forgiveness is called for, which is about 1,000 times a day. Forgive another, forgive ourselves. Forgiveness is the only concept that provides any meaning in a world that seems to make no sense. The unforgiving mind, perhaps hiding behind the face of innocence, has its basis in guilt, which becomes its source of characteristics. So the secret of salvation, that is, the secret of complete forgiveness, is this. We are doing this, all of this, unto ourselves. We made it up, just like we do at night when we're sleeping and dreaming. We are the dreamer of the dream. During the daytime, while we are awake, it is still the dream. We made it up. No matter what the situation, this is still true. No matter what the form of attack, this is still true. We made it up and we are the dreamer of the dream. Once we hold a grievance against another, thus becoming unforgiving, we should realize that fear then comes from us, the dreamer of the dream. Let me say that again. Once we make the decision to hold a grievance, we also make the decision to side with fear. Simply put, if we are holding a grudge, that's not coming from love. The opposite of love is fear. So if we choose anger or a grudge or a grievance, then we are choosing fear. All we can see then is fear all around us because we made fear real inside of us. The unforgiving mind is full of fear and ultimately full of sadness because it's lonely being disconnected. Loneliness is an offshoot of fear because as a fearful person, not only do others not want to be around us, but we tend to withdraw as a fear-based person, too afraid to go out. As we withdraw, we isolate. As we isolate, we disconnect. We disconnect, we become sad, and incredibly, it's all because we forgot to forgive. And when we forget to forgive, we forget to laugh, and life becomes lonely and sad. I mentioned that the unforgiving mind has its basis in guilt. Well, as long as guilt is part of our makeup, we will project outwardly onto others that very guilt and judge others to be the guilty ones, the wrong ones, the bad ones. Why do we do this? It's too difficult for most of us to look at ourselves and see the crap that's inside of us. So we rid ourselves of all of it by projecting it onto someone else. And then, of course, we have someone else we can now blame. We seemingly get off the hot seat by casting an evil eye towards another. How clever of the ego. An interesting facet of the unforgiving mind is that it sees no mistakes. It sees only sin. That's a deeply buried, psychologically inept way of thinking. And at this point in our planet's history, it is old school and parochial. Defaulting to that way of being is so easy. Anyone can do that. It takes a person of integrity to want to learn to change things in our life. How do we do that? We change our mind. In A Course in Miracles, it teaches that changing one's mind is the miracle. Not the effect of changing the mind, but changing the mind itself. When we change our mind from the wrong mind to the right mind, from guilt to guiltlessness, from ego to spirit as our teacher, we experience a shift in our life. Our viewpoints, our attitude, our beliefs, our thinking, how we feel, what we experience, and a corresponding shift in our energy field. That all changes. That's a miracle, we think. No, it's not. The miracle is changing one's mind, not the effect that comes about as a result. To learn this course that I teach from requires a willingness to question every single value that we have ever held. Not one can be kept hidden or obscure, as it will jeopardize the learning process. No belief is neutral. Every one of us has the power to dictate each decision we make. For a decision is a conclusion based on everything we believe. Forgiveness, for example, is acquired. It's not just resident in people who are nice. It is a practice that is developed. So the true mind, the right mind, cannot sin, by the way. Forgiveness is the correction that has to be learned by our split mind in order to unlearn what the ego has taught us. The voices we hear in our head, that's either the ego or its spirit. The ego usually speaks first, is always wrong, is very loud, is capricious, and does not intend its maker well. The maker would be you and me in this example. Spirit is the answer. As sin is an idea that we taught ourselves, forgiveness must be taught and learned by us as well, but from a teacher other than the ego self, who represents the other self in us, our higher self. So going forward, every experience we have with someone that we believe is attacking or ridiculing or using sarcasm in a subtle way is an opportunity to look differently at them and at ourselves, as we recognize that our world is an outside picture of an inward condition. In other words, the world out there is only a projection of our thoughts in here. So every difficult situation is an opportunity to reconnect with the decision maker within and choose again. Choose forgiveness rather than a grievance. As soon as we feel the inclination to clench or tighten or disagree or argue or hold a grievance, it is our opportunity to forgive. Choose the higher self or spirit rather than the ego by forgiving. Now, remember, spirit teaches how the motives of others can serve and teach us. That is, having taught us to accept only loving thoughts in others and to regard everything else, like non-loving thoughts, as an appeal for help, fear itself is an appeal for help, then by forgiving, we remain in a state of love. That is, no matter what is happening around us, we have the choice to react or respond, get angry and upset, or remain loving and kind. Accept the love that is coming towards us and extend the love that is within us, no matter what is going on around us. We need each other in order to strengthen our resolve to become whole, to be healed. We need all the challenges we face every day because those same challenges are our blessings. In other words, we either grow from those challenges to see them as blessings, or we remain right where we are and continue to hold on to the anger and the grievance. We need to learn not to see different categories of love and hate that we made so real and important. There are no categories. Love is love, and that is all. We need to see all the people as the same and realize that differences are the product of the ego, whereas unity and harmony are the resting place of spirit. Now, heaven is not a place or a condition. It is merely an awareness of perfect oneness and the knowledge that there is nothing else. Nothing outside this oneness and nothing else within. I'll say it this way. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. If it does not exist, it is not real. What God created is real. God did not create fear. We made fear. That is, our ego-based mind made fear. So since it was not created by God, it is not real, except between our ears. And that is not where the mind resides. It is where the brain resides, in the body. That is also not real. Give this some thought this week. That's it for today. Have a great day. See you next time.